Welcome to the wide world of esports, the show devoted to all things esports. I'm your host, Katharine Nohr. Today we're talking about collegiate esports in Hawaii. With me are Skye, Kauweloa, and Kevin Nguyen. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello, Catherine. Nice to meet you. Nice to,
Nice to
to
meet
talk with
you.
you. Yeah.
So, Skye, I understand you're a PhD candidate in esports. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I'm doing my PhD work in the Communication Information Sciences program at the University of Hawaii, and it's not necessarily a PhD in esports, but it's a PhD that definitely looks at esports and the consequences of esports as a activity, as a new form of entertainment, and sort of this new phenomenon that's sort of taking place globally. And yeah, I'm one of the few, I know the one of the only perhaps at University of Hawaii to look at the collegiate space. And it's been a really amazing journey, and I'm quite surprised at where it's taken me.
Okay. And Kevin, what are you doing in the esports space?
So I help manage a lot of the community and the management behind the University of Hawaii's esports teams, and a recent grad. And I guess my big goal is to try to make sure that students can have stable pathways if they want to do anything involving gaming, esports, and technology. I understand how hard it is to get a job in esports, and I don't think it should be that way. So at least here in Hawaii, I want to make sure that if you want to enter this space, that you can come to the University of Hawaii, know and be secure, knowing that I will get a job in the space if I pursue my education here.
What kind of job would you ideally have in esports?
To be honest, there's actually a multitude of different types of roles that esports has. Most people think that playing and being competitive is the only route, especially parents, and that's why they're really afraid of letting their children go into gaming. But realistically, there's so much more, such as brand management, social media engagement, community management, um, being a coach, being an analyst, shoutcasting. Students should know that playing is not the only route you should be, especially since only the top 0.01% maybe even have a chance of making it. So we want to give students that option, knowing that they can come to the University of Hawaii and try out their different skill sets and see what they truly enjoy.
Sure. And my role is esports lawyer and esports arbitrator or
Hmm.
mediator. So in so many different ways, we can participate in esports. And Skye, what do you think is exciting about esports?
Exciting, I think. Number one, it is something that is sort of deeply grassroots. It is something that has a community that really feels ownership over what they're doing and what they're creating. And I think that's sort of what I hope is always going to be there for the esports community itself, is that as it gets bigger, as it gets larger, that there's something unique about not just about esports, but even esports in different communities. So esports in Hawaii looks very different than esports in LA. And esports in LA looks very different from esports in Houston or New York or Berlin or France. So the fact that you have young people, youth around the world, creating something that's very meaningful for them that for a very long time has not been accepted, especially by parents. And I think that's what's important here is the collegiate space really brings these two groups together, where you have parents who have been questioning the legitimacy and the viability of this industry as being a location or a destination for their kids to pursue. And so far in the past 10 to 15 years, we've seen tremendous growth in the space, but it is growth that also requires a careful eye to understanding the pitfalls and the sort of the caveats that we have to kind of consider. Like, it is all definitely exciting, but also at the same time, as someone for like Kevin, who came into my class and was very curious about what was taking place, he wants to go into the industry, and we were able to create a path for him. but overall, it's still a very unstructured, route from A to B overall.
Sure. And why don't we show the video?
Have you guys seen esports and the E-League? I don't know if that's sports, but it's great mind savvy.
But I don't know if athlete is the right word that I would go for.
If you don't break a sweat, I don't consider it a sport.
No, you do.
Watching people play video games isn't like watching people play football. It's like watching people play fantasy football. It is one more step removed from human activity. You understand?
It's video games. It shouldn't be on a sports network. It's video games.
But can it truly be a spectator sport?
It already is. 71 million watched it last year. They reckon it's going to, by 2017, it'll be 145 million people watching it.
They're actually giving college scholarships for video gaming.
You're kidding.
And it's even gone to the point that now the government has acknowledged professional video gamers as athletes.
Same way you watch a football match, you can hear the crowd, everyone's cheering the team on, you make friends, these are people you talk to, you play with online. It's all about community, it's being part of something that you're incredibly passionate about.
Running for Barrett though right now, trying to establish vision control and force Ambition! Ambition steals the Elder Dragon! He gets away! There's a lives! This is a 4-Drake Elder Dragon! He lives! Ambition saves the game once again!
Kevin, what do you think the message of that video is?
Someone said it in there, and the big thing is community, and that's what makes me excited all about esports. And it's just knowing that a group of people can come together and make something truly special and showcase what they're really passionate about just gets a smile on my face. And it doesn't even have to be esports. That's just something that I think many individuals can see when someone's just truly excited about something. You just want to ride the wave with them, and you want to be a part of that journey. And right now we're just trying to allow students specifically to pursue their passion, and with so many of them that want to engage and so many of them that are excited and passionate, we want to make sure that we can provide the resources and help these students out in doing what they love.
So Skye, one thing that I see from this video is that there are people that just don't get it, and they don't think it's a sport. They think that it's kind of ridiculous and have no idea the enormity of this, the esports community, the esports space. What do you say to that?
I mean, on the one hand, esports is this massive Goliath that is really taking up a lot of the attention of youth culture, and it's hard to ignore. And it exists on that level, quite obviously. At the same time, though, if you don't know anybody who is into games or is into esports, it can also be easily missed. It's one of these things where it's sort of this dual reality to it, where it's massive at the same time, but at the same time, it's kind of invisible. And so, I have, when you have an ESPN host saying that, esports is irrelevant, that's definitely a very ignorant take on it. But at the same time, I also believe that those of us in esports should understand that, we are new, we are, exciting, but we also have to tell a compelling story. It's not just because we're here and we're technological and we're digital and we're the new kids on the block that somehow they just have to accept us. I think in the end, we have to understand, we have to connect with people who don't see the legitimacy or the relevancy of video games still. And it's for us to make sure that we tell these compelling stories, right? That we tell the stories about the professional players who sacrificed it all, who were shunned by their parents, and who literally for 3, 4, 5 years just dedicated their lives to this endeavor. We have to tell those stories, and that's why it's really important for us to be aware of, of those community of people who just don't get it. That's true, but it's our job to make sure that we can understand those positions, because it takes a while for some people to understand what's going on.
And I understand that you actually teach an esports class at University of Hawaii. Could tell us about what you teach?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to teach my Esports and Society course in 2018 and 2019. It was wonderful because it was a one-off opportunity for me to teach what I research, and all the PhD students in the School of Communications are able to do that. But I was given that opportunity, and it was amazing because we had a cross section of students from the university. My fear is that I would just get gamers in the class, and I didn't want to just have gamers in the class. I wanted to have students who were unaware or just curious, or were maybe even reluctant to really understand, is this really a thing? And I did have students in my class who were, as they were taking my course, would question me and say, is this really real? Is this something that we should, really pay attention to? So the purpose of that course was to not only provide a survey of the industry and a look at the collegiate space, but to also have people ask hard questions about esports. It was really nice. We had Twitch, who came down in 2019 to the University of Hawaii. They stayed with me for a week, and at the end of that class, I had students who would come up to me and say, you know what, Skye, this is really amazing. I want to stay in Hawaii. I don't want to leave. I want to see what you're doing here, and I want to help build it out with you. So it really opened my eyes to a number of things. And I think one of the big things that opened my eyes to is that you have students and young people, young adults in Hawaii who want to see this happen for us locally.
And Kevin, I understand that you're on a task force. What is that task force called, and what are you seeking to do?
That's actually Skye. You might want to redirect it to him.
Oh, okay. Skye.
Yeah, so the task force is a large initiative by the university to see if it's possible to offer a certificate by the end of the school year. And that is the goal, is to see how viable the options are, beginning with the course that I taught, which was a Esports and Society course, and hopefully look at maybe 2 other courses that could round out a certificate, a mini certificate, that could be applicable to the industry itself. And that really is the goal of the task force.
And Kevin, what are you hoping for UH Esports?
Well, I'm just hoping that we can truly create something special for students, that when they enter here, it's something that they can remember, and that I hope that they can get a job in the future. Because I think as students go into college, they are always fearful of what's next after they graduate. And if we can set something up where they know, hey, I'm going to be secure as soon as they enter college, that's something that it puts a relief on them, and they can focus on their education, but also focus on other side projects that they might want to do, and growing themselves as individuals.
Do you think that, I'll direct this to you, Kevin, do you think that parents are favorable? I mean, do they support their kids in pursuing esports, or do you think that's a barrier for them?
Well, I think as of right now, there's still like a stigma behind like students entering video games. I know, at least for me, it was very difficult to try to convey my message to my parents, telling them, hey, look, this is something I really enjoy, because they probably think there's no financial stability in this, and that's because they just might not know. And it's important for like kids to talk to their parents about what options are available, how it's a creative industry, and how there's so many more roles and options available. A lot of parents might just think that competition is the only way you can make a sustainable living, and they might not know that it can be more stable. They probably think it's just volatile. So it is an obstacle, but it's something that we can work towards. And it's more about educating the parents and just letting them know, hey, look, there's something that your child can do, and we're gonna help them get to that pathway.
Sure. And Skye, do you think that there's a kind of a communication gap between older generations and younger in relation to esports and gaming?
Oh yeah, for sure. It is in some sense a planetary gap between the two. I see it in discussions with students when they talk with their parents about the topic of gaming and esports. I see it with um, interactions between professors at UH and students at UH when they will ask them questions about mentors or people they look up to, and the student will say, "Oh, Pokimane," or Shroud. They'll mention people that are mainstream streamers on YouTube or Twitch, and there is no common space between these two groups. So much has shifted from the past 10 to 15 years. And so the gap is pretty significant. And I believe the gap is pretty problematic because this is a space in which gamers listen to other gamers. Gamers tend to want to be around other gamers, and they tend to take the advice of other gamers, and they tend to identify with other gamers. And that can be good and bad, but because of this generational shift between the two groups, especially in education, I see that this can be a problem if it's not addressed very quickly. And that's, again, my hope is that at the University of Hawaii, we begin to figure out ways in which we can cover that gap and say, you know what, this is a way in which we can find faculty, advisors, mentors, teachers who, you don't have to be a hardcore gamer, but this idea of loving games and loving not just video games, but even board games and any type of game. If you can start to share a common language, a common space together among students, it definitely makes it a much easier environment to teach in as well.
Right. And in video games, it seems to me, or in the esports space, it seems to me that there are so many university sections that would be in this space. For example, law. There's legal issues and there's business issues, there's marketing issues. What other, either one of you can answer this, what other sections of a university or departments of a university would have some relevance in gaming?
I could start this off, Skye. And for me, I think, or I'm a firm believer that any major can play a role in esports. That's the beauty of it. You can really pursue your education and do what you love in school, but also apply it to what you love in esports and gaming. So, like you said, if I was a law major, you realize how many legal issues that there are in sorry, not just League of Legends, but just esports in general. But there's also marketing. There's also coaching. There's also analytical work that you can do for teams. There's also shoutcasting. And as you can see, we just go deeper and deeper. There's sports psychology. There's nutrition. People look at gamers and just think, oh, there's these basement dwelling people that just play games for 8 hours a day. But we're definitely moving away from that lifestyle, and we're seeing people become more humanized, if that makes sense, just to be at the top, but also support these individuals who really want to be the best at their game. So no more of these people who are just eating chips and just drinking soda a day. They're definitely being a lot more healthy. And as we continue down the rabbit hole of which departments and which degrees can play a role in esports, you really see that everyone can be a part of this. And that's why we just want to help out any single student that wants to be here.
It seems to me that if a department like marketing or if a department like communications is not addressing esports, they're a bit out of date. What are your thoughts about that, Skye?
Yeah, it is becoming a fact that, gaming and esports are such a pivotal part of young adults' experiences with digital media. And it is a situation where you have universities now trying to figure out what to do about the space. But there is a big caveat. Esports exists. Universities understand that kids love video games and kids love esports, but they have to be very careful in entering or dipping their toes in the space, especially if they seek out to produce degrees, because right now we are such a infant apprenticeship style type of community where people really learn on the job. So for us at the University of Hawaii, it was very important for us to consider, do we think about a certificate or do we think about a degree? If you think about a degree, you have to make sure that not only are you covering subjects that are relevant, but you're also engaged with the larger community, but also with business partners, publishers, streamers who have clout, who have presence, and who have expertise. Because the community understands that universities are also seeing esports as a possible way of retaining and recruiting students. And if it doesn't look authentic, if it does look like like it's a student grab for attention, then you'll get raked across the coals on Twitter. Like, you'll be memed to the end of the day. And so it's one of these, again, careful balances by institutions, educational institutions, who see the benefit of esports, but should not rush to create quote unquote degrees in the space, but to carefully work with community members. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have Twitch back in 2019 at the University of Hawaii, is because to have Twitch there was to lend some sort of legitimacy that we are partnering with endemic companies. By endemic, I mean companies that are associated with technology and games. That does lend a tremendous amount of trust and legitimacy by the community itself. And that's why I think it's very important when we look at degrees, education, and the partnership between esports and education, that it's very exciting. Yes, at the one end, it's very exciting, but at the other end, if you're not careful about it, you definitely will pay for it.
Now, does UH have an esports team?
I can answer this. So yeah, we do. We participate in a multitude of titles, and so we have teams in League of Legends, Overwatch, Smash, Rocket League, Rainbow Six, and I think I mentioned Valorant. And so we have more than enough teams. We have multiple teams on multiple games as well, but we're looking to expand, and we just want to support any student, regardless of whatever games they play.
And so, Skye, how do the teams influence the academic aspect? So, like, if someone was, on a team, would they likely pursue a certificate in esports, or would they, how would that work?
Well, right now, the academic side is not associated with the competitive side of things. We just have a team or a set of teams who are competitive, who are extremely competitive, right? We're excited about what they're doing. But as it exists right now for our esports program, it is just a competitive activity in which students get together, form communities among themselves. So Kevin and I operate as sort of mentors and advisors to Smash, Valorant, Overwatch, and Rainbow Six, and a number of other games. But besides that, we really want the students themselves to generate the type of interactions that we hope to see, like mentorships between the coaches and the players. That is what we're seeing right now. And it's very powerful to see that, because it lends a lot of confidence building for these students, because we have a player, or a former player who is a team captain and team coach right now on our Rainbow Six team, who worked with Kevin quite closely, and we entrusted him in building out our Rainbow Six team, and he has done a phenomenal job. And across the board, we see this with different teams and with different captains and different coaches, that creating the ability for them to have enough confidence to lead our team and lead the charge, right? They're leading a charge with a very powerful college brand, which is University of Hawaii. That's what we're seeing right now. In the future, though, we do hope to see connections between our teams and our staff and our interns, and transitioning into taking part in our actual certificate. That is one of the goals we have. Hopefully, one of the goals we have is to say, if you take our certificate, which will be one of them we hope to be in streaming, that you will actually be certified to cast and stream for our games. So that creates a sort of incentive for them to see an end path once they take our certificate, that they can actually do something out there and hopefully connect that to the wider community beyond UH.
Sure. Is there any scholarship money offered for esports in Hawaii at this time, either of you?
You can take it.
As of right now, no, but we're hoping so in the near future, because if these students are putting in just as much time as traditional sports athletes at universities, I believe they should just be compensated for their time and their efforts for playing for us. And right now, there are scholarships if you win a tournament, but we don't want to add that pressure to students knowing that, okay, we have to win, like I'm going to practice more and sacrifice my homework for this. It shouldn't be the case. It should just be, if they're competitive, if they're doing their absolute best, and they're here to work on themselves as individuals, and they're here for school, I believe school should be paid for, and hopefully that's something that we can get in the very near future.
So Kevin, what is your favorite game to play?
I guess my favorite game to play is League of Legends, but I would like to take a break. I want to try out other games, but right now it's definitely League of Legends without a doubt.
Okay, so what skills do you think that you gain from League of Legends?
I think as much as people want to say like, oh, I can press a mouse and keyboard a lot better, to be honest, it's the mental fortitude of playing. Like I realize, like, especially when I watch League of Legends at the top level, the stress levels that they might go through are beyond anything that I can ever imagine. And for me to just play at my level, it's already extremely stressful. And just knowing that, hey, I have to push through if I want to get better, and I have to learn how to, fix up my mistakes, look at how I can improve. Like those are the skills that I really, really learned. It's the mentality of it all, rather than how fast can I click buttons, what's my reaction speed. And then I like to pass this along to my players and the community itself, because when I was coaching a little at HPU, I wanted to make sure that I could teach them as better individuals, as well as how to teach them how to play the game better.
Sure. And Skye, in business, two skills that are really important and talked about very often are the skills of teamwork and leadership. Do you feel that esports involvement creates teamwork and leadership?
I mean, yeah, well, what it does create is the opportunity for teamwork and leadership in ways in which these students may not have those opportunities. So traditionally, if you have a student athlete, depending on the game, which usually when we talk about college, there are team-based games, you have a tremendous amount of opportunities to build teamwork experience and leadership experience, if given the opportunity. For gamers, that has not been something that has been offered to them in a college experience ever before. So for them to actually be able to create teams, okay, so not only just playing on a team, but even creating a team requires a lot of vetting, requires a lot of careful thinking, and requires a lot of practice. So the ability to actually give these students the chance to create teams and to control the teams and to guide the teams, that itself is, I mean, for me, just having the opportunity is a powerful statement itself. But beyond that, yes, there are obvious ways in which, playing on a team of 5, playing on a team of 6, does build up these very important work-based skills that we kind of imagine are going to be important when these kids graduate for 21st century jobs. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, we're about out of time, but Skye and Kevin, thank you so much. You've provided us a lot of great information about collegiate esports.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And,
happy to be here.
All right. And thank you all for joining us today. Next week, my guest will be John Corthinos about connecting brands with esports. See you then.